Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do the countdown episode number 114. That's right, guys. We have 15 books to talk about all together this week. No digital copies, all physical copies. And let's just jump right into it, shall we? All right, here we go. So number 15 goes to probably the one of the most disappointing endings to a Secret Wars series to date. And I had high hopes for the end of this one, and this one was Planet Hulk issue number 5. I really enjoyed this series. I think the only issue that was a little slow was like issue 3, I think. And the last issue was really good. At the end of it, you got to see that the Red Hulk, they finally made their way to the Mud Kingdom. It took the whole series to get there. They get to the end, and they come across the Red Hulk, and the Hulk tells him that Bucky was dead. Okay, and he shows him the arm, and he couldn't believe it. So what happens in this issue is that it was kind of like a whole setup and whatnot. And then the thing is that you're expecting this huge monumental battle between maybe the Red Hulk and Captain. And then what happens is all he does is he kind of just he gets so angry and so infuriated that he chops his head off with the shield. And that's the fight. And you're just kind of like, what? Really? And then what happens is, yes, he avenges his brother's death or whatever it was, but then you get Doc Green that comes in here, and he knew the plan all along. And what happens is he gives Captain America or Steve Rogers a speech in how there's rage in all of us, and this and that. And what he does is he transforms back, and he transforms back to another version of Steve Rogers. And it was just like, and he's just giving him this speech, and I was just like, I'm like, what is going on here? And so at the end of it all, Devil Dinosaur fights off the other Hulks and whatnot. And then what happens is, I guess Steve Rogers, Captain America, the original one, fights off the Doc Green Steve Rogers, and he just kills him lying there helpless. And that's kind of all it ended. That's just the way it ended, and this is how it ends. Oh yeah, and that's the end of the Chronicle. And it was kind of like, it's kind of cool how they would have them fight each other, but when they showed the fight scenes, it was completely rushed and it just ended. It was like no battle scene whatsoever. Oh, I'm going to come to the Red Hulk. Oh, I'm going to chop off his head. That's that. Just one page of a battle. Oh, look, Doc Green is another version of myself. Oh, I'm just going to slap him in the freaking chest with an axe. Well, that's that. And then we're going to ride off into the sunset together. What kind of ending is that? I didn't get it. I got so much talk and speech of how we have all this inner rage and you're a Hulk and I'm not and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, I was just disappointed with it. Great artwork as usual, but just a disappointing ending. I gave this one a 2.75 out of 5 stars. Just really did not the direction I wanted. I really wanted a fight between this Red Hulk and Captain America, or somehow Bucky be alive. Just some weird twist in there, and we never got to see who this Red Hulk was. It was just weak. It was really weak ending. All right, so 2.75 out of 5 stars. Next, we have number 14, which was Robin Hood issue number 14. This particular story arc is kind of weak for me. It has to do with Robin teaming up with Van Helsing in this particular story arc, and they're dealing with these vampires, and these vampires are broadcasting on a live stream of everything that is kind of going on with them getting destroyed. I thought this book was just dragged out. I didn't like. Usually when these two team up, the stories are pretty good, but this time I just didn't enjoy it. I thought the artwork got a little bit sloppier as the issue went on. This is pretty cool here, but then as you go through the particular issue, the characters start getting skinnier and lengthier, and it started to get a little bit more sketchy. And here's a picture of Robin right here. and Van Helsing, and I just didn't like the way they were drawn in this particular issue. And you know, the next story arc just looks quite interesting as well. I like Robin Hood as a series. However, I felt that this particular story arc lost its punch, and I'm hoping, hopefully, it picks up because the original stories of this were really, really good, and the first few issues of this were really good. And I feel like now this is a little bit dropping off for me. But nevertheless, though, if you're looking to catch up or trying to read a little bit more on Robin Hood, those first trades that came out were absolutely spectacular. So Robin Hood issue number 14 for me gets a 3 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go into number 13, and number 13 was Mrs. Deadpool and the Howling Commandos. Here we get to see some cool stuff in this issue. Just, you know, with Mrs. Deadpool doing battle against Dracula, the Howling Commandos teamed up with her to try to stop and overthrow him. And the artwork is beautiful in here. The colors are what really makes everything pop. And you really visually want to look at this book for hours because just the facial expressions are great. And it's a lot of fun to look at. The story is funny at times too, but there was nothing much to this story. We got to see Mrs. Deadpool collect this artifact, and it's the artifact that can kill Dracula. And the Howling Commandos are at her side by the time this was all and done with. But Dracula just basically is just killing off all the Howling Commandos. He snaps a werewolf's neck. Frankenstein gets overrun. The symbiote, whatever. Minotaur or horseman or whatever it was gets his head chopped off, and just as you wind up seeing Mrs. Deadpool wind up getting killed, you get to see Deadpool come in here for the love of his wife and possess Igor, and he throws the weapon right over to her, and then what happens is she winds up turning Dracula into stone and taking off his head. And the rest of the what happens then is you wind up seeing Mrs. Deadpool wind up getting killed at the end of the issue due to all the Thors and what she did into the land. And it was a quite interesting issue, and it was a good read. And then by the time you get to the end of it, you get to see the end or the beginning of new Deadpool issue number 1 coming out for all new, all different Marvels. So this was a good read. It was a fun series. There was nothing here that just blew you out of the water. But if you like Deadpool, if you like the the comical relief that comes with it, I think you'll enjoy this. And this overall series, I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, and that was number 13 this week. All right. Next, we go on to number 12. And number 12 this week was Secret Wars 2099, issue number 5. Another conclusion to the Secret Wars Battle World series. They're starting to all end now because we're getting ready for, again, all new, all different Marvel. And in this time around, we wind up seeing the Defenders and the new version of 2099 Avengers come together, and they try to stop this nightmare-like monster that looks like this octopus. And I was just like, wow. Out of all these weird enemies that you wind up releasing into the world, you come up with this thing. And it was just very odd. And this thing instilled fear into all its opponents. And it was cool seeing these guys team up. You know, at first you think maybe, you know, Tony Stark or Silver Surfer were going to handle this monster. But that wasn't the case. Doctor Strange released this other creature that looks like some kind of whale. And this got really weird really quickly with these creatures doing this weird battle with each other. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, when did it become about these gigantic weird monsters like Moby Dick versus freaking octopus or whatever it was? And then you wind up seeing Doctor Strange capturing the creature, and all well is good. And then you wind up seeing Miguel wind up taking care of his father as well. and having his father not around anymore because he was the one pulling all the strings. And let's just say everyone is in good hands with each other. They're on good standings with each other. And that's pretty much how the series ended. The one thing I wanted to get more out of this issue, which I thought we would have, was Roberta, which was the Captain America. Because at the end of the last issue, you wind up seeing that she was transformed back to herself, to her normal self. And then as she's trying to figure out what's going on, we get Miguel that goes in her head, and she winds up getting back to Captain America once again. So I felt if the series could have done something a little bit better, it would have been getting to know at least Roberta a little bit more. So maybe in the future we can get to see a maybe an Avengers 2099, maybe a Captain America 2099. So we get to know a little bit more Roberta because I think that's what made the series. I think she was the one that made people read this book because they want to know more about her. If she wasn't in this book, honestly, I probably wouldn't give two shits about this book. But she was the one that made it interesting. And in fact, if we got to know a little bit more about the characters, which would have been even a much better series. So after reading this one, I'm giving this one a 3.25 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to number 11. And number 11 was Darth Vader issue number 9. That's horrible. Anyway, cool cover. Really love the cover. The interior artwork in this book is pretty cool. And we get to find out now that Darth Vader is teaming up with an Imperial fellow Walker to do this investigation of what's going on in this orbital spaceship or this dockyard, because we wind up finding out that Darth Vader's little sidekick stole all the money. And what's cool about this issue is that Darth Vader knows this whole plan that's in place, and it's just like, and they're investigating and finding out what's what's going on, and Darth Vader knows the whole thing, but he's keeping things under wraps. And his little secret MO here is to try to find, his son and to try to overthrow the Emperor at the same time. So while he's investigating with this Imperial, he's known what's gone on the whole time. His little sidekicks behind everything. We get to see them trying to find information. So it's a good book. And artistically, this book is done very well. I really enjoy this book. I think that the story I think it might be a little bit draggy at times. I'm kind of finding myself, I'm like, okay, let's move on. I want to see some action in this book. That's something that we haven't seen a lot of in Darth Vader, and I want to see more of it. And I want to see more heavier plot lines going along. And I know it's kind of a slow burn type of series, but I do want to see more action in this, and it's been slowly developing as it's going on. So after reading Darth Vader, I give this one a 3.25 out of 5 stars as well. All right, so now we go on to number 10. And number 10 this week goes to... Cracking the top 10 is Miss Marvel issue number 18. In this issue, we wind up finding out that Kamala has her brother that was surrounded into this Terrigen mist, but it really wasn't a mist. It was like this cheap knockoff type of mist that he had somewhat of an allergic reaction and developed powers, and his powers was creating this type of force field around him. And Kamala's ex-boyfriend is trying to recruit him into the evil side, to the dark side of the Inhumans or whatnot. And he wants nothing to do with it. And you get to see a cool little battle between him, and it was cool to see him have his powers. And the thing is that the brother or the boyfriend winds up getting defeated. You wind up seeing Miss Marvel taking his brother back to the school, and the end of her team up with Captain Marvel comes to an end because she comes to a realization that the world is ending, and she loved how Kamala has this passion and this love for keep going, and things are being. She's always so optimistic, and it was cool. She gave her this amulet at the end, and we get to see, at the end, Carmela dealing with her family and how her what's it called? How her brother's dealing with these powers, and we find out at the end that her mother knew that she was Miss Marvel this entire time, and it was kind of a surprising and shocking end to the end of this book. Like, how did her mom know? You know, maybe she just had that feeling or whatnot. But the next issue is the conclusion to Miss Marvel, so that will take place in issue number 19. So I love Carmela's character. You know, she always very optimistic, a happy-go-lucky character. She's very relatable, and even on the brink of the end of the days and end of days here, we can see that she's full of life. So really good book. So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So. All right, I'll be right back here. I just gotta get my charger as my my computer's starting to die. All right. Boom, now we got power. All right, here we go. So next this week we have number 9, and number 9 was the conclusion to Little A versus X. Yes, that's right, guys. This book has been hysterical. You know, Scotty Young is the writer and the artist on this book. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous in here. If you love all the variant covers that he's been doing, this is a series for you because this is just generally some of the best like art ever when it comes to like little kid artwork or just facial expressions and just having a good time with a book. This is basically the book for you guys. I love it. I really, really do. My son recently had to read a book at the library from Scotty Young, who actually did the illustration in it. But again, this is what really makes this book shine is all these pages in here and makes you really appreciate it. But what was the story about? The story about in this particular issue, again, had to deal with these twins, and they're fighting for the companionship of the Avengers, the X-Men, and then what comes along now is the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's pretty much the issue, and that's pretty much been the issue for the past couple of issues, or 3 issues now, of our team fighting over Zach and Zoe, which are these guys right here. So this time around, though, we also got the Guardians of the Galaxy. Then you got the Inhumans in here. And I thought the cool thing in this book is just the way Medusa looks. She's got pigtails, and they're all over the place, and she's trying to, you know, fight everybody off to get the in control of Zach and Zoe. I just thought it was fantastic. It was a funny read. And then by the time you get to the very end, like the very end of this book, you find out that Zach and Zoe finally join a club, and it is the Brotherhood of Mutants. And you get to see Magneto and the Blob, and Loki's in there, and Mystique, and they look they're kind of happy there. You know, I thought that was where they felt that they belonged. So, and then you even got Ultron on there, and he says there are no strings on me. So I love the movie reference in there. So this was a lot of fun. This was a great series. Cool ending. You know, don't take it too literally. You know, if you're a hardcore fan and you don't want to read like kitty-like books, this may not be for you. But I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I had a good fun time with it. It just got repetitive a little bit. All right. Next, we go on to number 8. And number 8 this week goes to Starfire, issue number 4. This time she teams up with Terror, otherwise known as Lee. If you guys are familiar with her, she's from the Power Girl series. She was in the Power Girl series. And this book is pretty cool because, first of all, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this book. Really enjoy the artwork. It's got bright colors. It's a lighthearted book. You know, Corey, we know what type of character she is. She's also lighthearted. You know, and the cool thing about this issue, too, was that you get to see kind of a little bit of a backstory here of Tara on where she came from. And we wind up getting to see what they do with this monster. They team up, they throw it into the ocean, it winds up going into the bottom of the ocean, and then you get to see some good character moments in this book when it comes to the sheriff of the town dealing with everything that's at hand, because in past 72 hours the sheriff, which is her right here, she winds up dealing with I guess this monster. She dealt with 2 superheroes. She's dealt with a hurricane, and it's just been overwhelming for her. And to see her crack up and just freak out in the actual issue was just like it was just absolutely awesome. So I really enjoyed it, and it was cool having these two trying to make her feel better by giving her a group hug. So yeah, there's some good character moments in this book. It's very lighthearted. You have a good time with it, and we find out that Corey is being hunted down by a bounty hunter from her planet, from Tamaran. So good developments. It gets you ready for the next story arc. I think this is a fun series. It could be a little bit wordy at times, so you got to make sure you take your time in reading it. If you read a lot of books per week, and the artwork in this series is absolutely gorgeous. So after reading this book, I give Starfire issue number 4. I gave this one a 3 3/4 out of 5 stars. All right. Next, we go on to number 7 this week, and number 7 goes to DC's Gotham Academy, issue number 10. This book is solid. You know, it's like your modern day Scooby Doo slash Harry Potter mystery type of series. And I recently read all 9 issues of this series, and I have a great time with it. The artwork is beautiful. It reminds me of like some kind of like manga inspired or anime style type of artwork, but you can also almost throw it into a cartoon. And I love how like the paneling is set in front of a setting. Like in here, he's sitting in front of the theater and whatnot. So I love the way that was done. And in this particular issue, you wind up finding out that the main character Corey here is searching for what's happening in this play. She feels that her mother is haunting the play because her mother is dead, and that's really not the case in this particular issue. As they do their more investigating or whatever it is, we find out that Clayface's daughter was involved in this particular issue. And and we see Clayface make his appearance in here, and he wanted to get revenge, I guess, on the teacher or the theater performer or whatnot. And it was really creepy artwork in here. And here's what Clayface looks like. There's Clayface there. It looks pretty cool. And there were kids were surprised in there, and they figured out how to beat Clayface. They shot him with water. They're going to get Catherine some help. We find out that it's not uh, Olivia's mother after all. At the end of the issue, that was behind all these murders, obviously, or what was going on here. But we have a feeling by the time you get to the end of this book is that Olive's mother could possibly be alive. So again, great story. Keeps you at the edge of your feet. The only problem with this book is after reading 9 issues in a row and waited a month for this one to come out, I felt a little things I forgot certain things of what happened. And I feel that this is a type of series that you can read better in trade because you can get deep into a story and then you can keep reading it and finding out what happens. Where here, when you read it monthly, you start getting into it. Then by the time the next month comes out, you're kind of like, oh shit, what happened here? So I think this is a better read in trade personally. So after reading this one, I gave Gotham Academy 3 3/4 stars. All right. Next, we go on to number 6. And number 6, this just could not get into the top 5 this week because of a couple of reasons. And it was Batman issue number 44. That's right, guys. First of all, the reason why this cannot crack the top 5 this week was because of the price of the book. It was $4.99. And based off of all the solicits, I think a lot of people thought that this book was going to be a Mr. Bloom origin story, and it just was Mr. Bloom where he was after Zero Year, and it was kind of like what the hell was the point of that? And I want to apologize for people that did watch my Batman review. I thought that Brian Azzarello did the artwork, and I made a mistake. He actually co-wrote the book with Scott Snyder, and the artwork was done by Chalk. And I apologize for that because I know a lot of people were trying to correct me on that. And again, I apologize. Make mistakes here every once in a while. So, um, But what happened is this book basically dealt with a kid that was killed in the Narrows, and it was Batman solving the case, and that's basically what the issue was about here. And we found out that this kid went to all different types of resources to try to get help because his father's corner store was being closed, and he couldn't get any help. The only person that seemed to help him was Mr. Bloom, to give him this weird power that Mr. Bloom has in his seeds or his formulas or whatnot. And then what happens is that the formula wound up killing the kid, and that's basically what happens in the issue. Now, Jacques' artwork in this book was very fitting because this was like a flashback type of book. You know, you got to see things that happened in the past because it took place in 0 year. You get to see newspaper articles. They tried to make it very fancy in this particular issue. So I liked what they were trying to go for here. However, my thing in this is that when you get spoiled by Capullo's artwork, you get spoiled by it. But again, I get what they were going for because this was like a flashback issue here. And you're trying to find out what happened to this kid. But unfortunately, it had nothing to do with Mr. Bloom, and they charged you an extra $1. It seemed like a thicker book, but I wanted a thicker book with Mr. Bloom. That's what I wanted to know here. So that's why this couldn't crack the top 5 for me. And this one fell in number 6, and it still did get 4 out of 5 stars. It was still a solid read and an interesting story. All right, so now we go on to number 5. And number 5 this week goes to The Walking Dead, issue number 146. A breaking point was reached. Now, in this issue, you wind up seeing the rest of the community in this book grieving the death of everybody that has died, because the Whisperers are the ones that killed some of the townsfolk in the community. And this was a very silent issue. You know, you get to see the reactions of the community, again, of all these deaths that happen in here. And it was a very quick read. It only took about 3 minutes. But you can see that, yes, a breaking point was reached with a lot of the characters in this series or in this book. Because they want revenge, because these Whisperers are the ones that killed all these people, and Rick doesn't want to. He doesn't want to put the communities at risk and do anything stupid, because if you read the issues in the past, we got to see that the leader of the Whisperers, she is the one that actually has this herd of zombies under her control, and she can release them and basically just overthrow these communities. And the people want nothing to do with it, though. They all have their breaking point. Actually, Rick and Maggie wind up going toe to toe with each other in this particular issue. So there was a lot of tensions building. It was kind of a filler issue, but nevertheless, it was very interesting to see all these emotions develop. And by the time you get to the end of this issue, you wind up seeing Eugene now wants to even get some revenge on these Whisperers, because they wound up killing Rosita and they wound up killing her baby as well. So very emotional book, and that's how The Walking Dead has been recently. Same thing with this book. I'm looking for some more action to pick up. We've just gotten basically all story, and there's been a lot of build up, but no real action that's been going on in this book. And I'm anxious to see what's going to happen here in the future for The Walking Dead. So after reading this one, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars as well. All right, next we go on to issue number 4. We go on to number 4, and number 4 goes to a new book that I just started reading in the last issue, and this was Ninjak, and Ninjak issue number 7. This is part 2 of the Shadow Wars, and we get to see Colin King, who is Ninjak in here, go to London to try to take out the next person that works for Weaponeer, that produces all these weapons of mass destruction, and these are the major players that are involved here. And he goes into London undercover, and he meets up with the female here. Her name is weird to say. It's like Sangine or whatever it is. And what is cool is that they don't want to do this battle in the open or whatnot. She starts telling him, like, the backstory of how she was raised and how she was kept in jail and how she only could get through by committing pain to herself, so she would cut herself. So you can see that right there. She used to cut herself so she could get by through the days. And then she went to this like strange monk that like changes people when you have a lack of will or whatnot. So she goes to like this underground well, and we can see that she like transforms herself and makes herself into something much more monstrous. She starts off there, and then later on she ends up there, and then she winds up becoming stronger, and she becomes a warrior, and then she becomes this weapon that she went to like this hospital, and she can rearrange her organs and things like that, and sharpens her teeth. And then right away what happens is they start doing battle in here. Now, unlike the last issue um, didn't have as clean artwork. The colors weren't as good. And I remember saying that if you have a ninja book, you want some detail in there because it could get really gory. And in this book, it was. This issue was much improved artwork. There was much more detail to the characters. You get to see her with her long fingernails, and we get to see just an awesome battle here with, her fingernails going into Ninjak's armor, and it was just much more detailed, and I loved it. And we get to see more of a backstory of Colin himself on where he came from, who his parents were about, and his parents' alcoholism. But again, the detail is just really what made this book go for me, and the artwork and the colors and whatnot. I mean, look at this. This is freaky right here, right? This reminds you something of a horror movie. So I just had a lot of fun with this book. This was a great book, and I love how they throw a little bit of the flashback so you get to learn more about where Colin King came from. So definitely, if you haven't checked out Ninjak yet, I would suggest you guys reading this. Great book, and I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on to number 3, top 3, number 3. Are you surprised? Maybe, I don't know. I love this final issue. A-Force has its kind of its up and downs. I thought the last issue was a little bit weak. This issue was much improved. Visually, this book is outstanding. I love it. It's just a visual treat. Everything about it, and same thing, like kind of like the last book. The colors really make this book pop. Brings the characters to life. Love the facial expressions in here. Again, here's more facial expressions, and I love the actual action scenes in this book. Dazzler looks gorgeous. Nico looks gorgeous. Jennifer Walters is absolutely outstanding in this book. And again, everything about it visually just had me in awe this entire time when I was reading this book. And here's a cool page with Loki on it, female Loki on there. So, and in this story, we find out that there has been a traitor in the lands called Arcadia. And we've been trying to find out who this traitor is that's creating all these portals and these monsters coming through and capturing people and whatnot. And of course, we find out that it's Loki. Loki's been behind the whole thing the whole time. And once they find this out, you get to see this awesome battle happen. And first they got to fight off the Thors, then they got to fight off Loki herself. And it was just a wonderful book. I just really liked it. And when we find out that Loki was the traitor here, Nico could not believe it because Loki was the one that took care of Miss America and Nico. And at first you thought that maybe they would, come rectify their differences there, but when she comes to a realization is that she created the portals, and then what happened is she was the reason why Miss America was exiled. Nico wanted nothing to do with Loki anymore, and they wound up trapping her in the issue. And then what happens is she releases, she breaks down the shield or the walls that surrounds Arcadia. And what happens is the zombies are going to penetrate their land. And I was like, wow, that is pretty cool. You know, we get to see them try to handle these hordes of zombies. I don't know if that's going to stay true, but this particular issue was a lot of fun. I love them discovering who the traitor was. I love seeing the battle. I love seeing the emotional beats between Nico and Loki. It was just a fun, great looking book to look at. And I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. And that was number 3 this week. All right, next we go on to number 2. And number 2 goes to Star Wars Shattered Empire, issue number 1. I had a lot of fun with this book because it really sets things up on what's to come. And you kind of, when you get done reading it, you're in a way, you're just sitting there going, man, I can't wait for more. I need more of this. And you're kind of thinking, how are they going to wrap up this story with 3 issues left? It's kind of shocking. The artwork is gorgeous in here. And this book takes place during the Return of the Jedi. During the end of it, you get to see a little page of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker fighting each other. You get to see the dog fights that are taking place outside of the Death Star, the final Death Star. And you get to learn about this character. Her name is Sarah, I think, or Shara, I think her name was. And she is part of the Rogue Squadron, and you wind up getting to see her interact there with Luke Skywalker as he's exiting the Death Star with his, father for the last time, or when right before his father died, and it was really interesting. You wind up getting to see them celebrate on the Endor moon after the defeat of the Empire, and you get to see that whole night transpire how they were celebrating, and you wind up seeing Shara meet up with Sergeant Demeron. And if you guys caught this, if you guys know your new characters, and I was messaged this, what's it called? This, they wound up spending the night together right here in the issue, and this could have been the conception of, I think his name is Poe Dameron, which is the Rogue Squadron fighter in the future of the new movie, The Force Awakens. He's in the preview where he's fighting he's in the X-wing, over the waters or whatnot. So you could actually witness the conception of that character there. So that was pretty interesting to see that. So by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, we wind up seeing that the Imperials try to have a counterattack, whatever's left of their forces, and they have this secret base on the moon of Endor, another moon of Endor, and the rebels try to do a quick and swift attack on the group of Imperials. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of it and they penetrated the base, you find out there's been more plans, and that this is not the end of the Imperials, and that's what Han Solo says. So where does this go from here? I have no freaking clue. I have more questions now than ever before. How are they going to get answered in the next 3 issues leading into the movie? I have no idea, but this was a phenomenal book. I really enjoyed the artwork. I enjoyed the writing in here, and I think this was a great book, and if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to love it. And so I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right. Here it is, the book you've been waiting for the entire time you have been watching the countdown, episode number 114. And is it no surprise that it is The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue number 5? It can't be. This was a great issue and a wonderful series altogether. Dan Slott has been on top of his game in this series, and it makes me rethink and say, wow, Dan Slott, you really do know how to write The Amazing Spider-Man and Mary Jane and everything else that surrounds the universe of characters. And it's just editorial that is handcuffing you from doing the things that you want to do with the character. So when his new series comes out, I am very hopeful that he gets to do what he wants to do with the character, because he can write a damn good Spider-Man, and this story really proved it here. The artwork from Adam Kubert was absolutely outstanding, and I felt that his artwork improved as he continued this series. The opening page just captures you all together. The wedding of Peter and MJ. You get to see the beginning with Peter and Ben and May. You wind up seeing the death of Aunt May there in the casket. You can see the witness of the birth of the baby. It just says it all right here. This is stuff that people want to read about and have been missing for years and years. And in this book, you wind up seeing MJ and Annie Mae, who now calls her name AMP because it stands for Annie Mae Parker, which I thought was fantastic. Do battle against Regent's little cronies, and I thought it was outstanding. And when Peter saw that his family was in danger, we get to see the tenacity and him feeling responsible for him trying to take care of his family and break out of Regent's clutches, you know? And it's just like, man, that is great. And you just get to see all this action in this battle and just everything about it. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this series or this particular issue, we wind up seeing some great lines in here. And just with, you know, Mary Jane saying, "You just hit the jackpot," and he's just like, that line never gets old. And then at the end, and he goes, and he makes this joke and he says, "Come on, how does Spider Sense pay his kid's allowance?" In Spider Sense, you know, and then just Regent just starts laughing and cracking his ass off and things like that, and he just jacks him in the face and knocks him out. But he stays true to his character. He doesn't kill the character. He doesn't kill the villain here. You know, he distracts him by using his wittiness and his sense of humor. And that's what makes the character so good. That's why we all love Spider-Man. And this was just a phenomenal, phenomenal read. And then just at the end of it, you get to see them eating breakfast with each other. This was just by far the best comic I read. Maybe because I'm a Spider-Man fan, but yet it was so great to see that Spider-Man story that we have been waiting to read for years now. And who knows, this could be the last hurrah of the Amazing Spider-Man that we have all known and loved for years and years. Again, it just determines where the Amazing Spider-Man goes with this all new and all different Marvel series. So at the end of the day, this one gets 5 out of 5 stars for me. The number one pick of the week. And that is it, guys. You've seen it. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best, you've seen all that other crap in between. And guys, now in the comments below, tell me what your worst pick of the week was, what your favorite pick of the week was. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And this has been the Countdown, episode number 114. Thanks for watching, fans. Take care. See you soon. Bye.